I'd say that first and foremost, what an awesome opportunity to play in a fantastic game. This ball game, obviously means so much to so many people. It's a tremendous atmosphere, not only for Texas and Oklahoma, but I think for all of college football. An extremely unique setting, one in which that, when you're in our profession, you want to make sure you take advantage of these opportunities and enjoy the experience, first of all. I think that our team has had a really good week of preparation. I like the temperament. I like the mental intensity. I like the focus, but yet I like the looseness. I think that our guys have really approached this game with the right manner. I think they're focused on the task at hand and looking forward to them going out and competing on Saturday.
Great. Thank you, Coach. Guys, go ahead and use your raised hand function if you have a question, and we'll roll through some. We have a lot of guys on here today, so please keep it to one question each when I call on you. Kirk, go ahead and start us off.
Steve, in your coaching career, what's the nastiest, most heated environment you feel like you've coached in, either as an assistant or a head coach? And how's this compare?
Well, I coached in Philadelphia in the playoffs when I was with the Falcons, and that is a different environment because it's truly a home field advantage. And anybody who's from Philly on here or who's an Eagle fan, when you go to Philadelphia in January, the weather's not really conducive, and the fans are pretty nasty. Let's just leave it at that. And I give them a lot of credit. It's great home field advantage. This one's different. It's unique in that, one end of the field, it feels like a home game. The other end of the field, it feels like a road game. Clearly, anytime there's a rivalry involved, especially from a proximity standpoint that we are, a lot of the players know one another. A lot of the fans might know one another. Households could be split. I mean, there's a lot that goes into this, and that's what makes college football rivalries so unique, and this one in particular. But that's what you love. I mean, this is why we do it. And so, like I said, you just want to embrace this opportunity. Make sure you're putting your best foot forward to go out and perform at a high level.
Dennis, go ahead.
Coach, when it comes to Quinn, what about his makeup do you like, and what gives you confidence that he could come off an injury like he has, shake off the rust on a stage like this with so much chaos around him?
I think one thing, Quinn is a very even-keeled guy. He's not overly emotional. I think that he takes things in stride as they come, but yet he's highly competitive. I give him a lot of credit throughout this process of staying engaged. We pushed him, and we've been pushing him for the last month. And so on that aspect of it, I think it's been good for him because he's made really good progress, not only with his health, but I think, schematically as well.
Terry, you're up.
Coach Sarkisian, has Coach Banks and the special teams prepared any differently for this particular game? I mean, it's possible you might have to call in Bert Auburn to win the game in the last 2 seconds. Just curious if they have prepared differently for this game.
No, our preparation's been our preparation. I think that we've got a process that we believe in, whether it's on offense, defense, or special teams. I think that, we've been fortunate from Bert's perspective. He's had to make a couple really big kicks for us already this year. He makes a big kick against Alabama to take the lead with a minute or so to go in the game. He makes a last-second kick at Tech to send the game into overtime, and those were not easy kicks. Those were big boy kicks. So feel very confident in Bert if we get put in that situation, and obviously have the utmost trust and faith in Coach Banks and on all of our coaches in preparing our players.
Nick, you're up.
Yeah, Steve, just wanted to ask specifically about Keandre Coburn. I know you'd mentioned this past offseason you kind of challenged him to expand his game and maybe be more of a multidimensional sort of defender. Just curious, how do you think he's embraced that challenge, and what has he meant for your defense this year?
I think Keandre has really improved. I think he is becoming a 3-down player. There was a couple sacks in last week's game where I think the sacks occurred because of the pass rush and the push that he got in the middle. I know he wants to get those sacks, but I think the reality of it is when you can affect the quarterback from the inside out and you can push that pocket and make that pocket small, that can have a real impact on the game. And he's done that. He's obviously a tremendous run defender for us. But I think ultimately, I think it's been his maturity. You feel his senior leadership. He's got a great deal of confidence. He's a lighthearted guy, but yet he's a very intense guy. And I think there's a lot of players on our team that follow his lead and just kind of his focus on what he's trying to do and how to do it, but yet enjoys being a college football player, which I think you have to do. So been very pleased with him and really proud of him.
Joe, go ahead.
Steve, the Sooners, no matter who's going to be at quarterback, they run a really quick tempo. Don't let the play clock run down that much. How do you, emphasize that or prepare this week, making sure your defense is ready from the coaches to the players to, maybe see a snap with 30 seconds left on the play clock?
Well, I'd argue they're the fastest team in the country. I would say Oklahoma, Ole Miss, a few other teams go as fast as they go. I mean, they're at another level comparatively to what other people do. I think communication is critical. We've got to make sure that we get the call in. We've got to make sure that all 11 players on the field get the call, that we align, we assign, and we execute. And then you've got to rinse and repeat. You've got to go do it again on the next snap and the next snap and the next snap, because that's the way they apply pressure on you defensively. It's not so much the formations, the motions, the shifts, and those types of things, the personnel groupings. It's their ability to not sub and stay on the field and try to catch you, out of alignment, miscommunicating, not prepared for the snap, getting knocked off the ball. So I think it's important that we communicate at a high level, we get aligned, we understand our assignment, and then still play our brand, our style of football.
Anwar, go ahead.
Hey, Coach, just kind of curious as to what's been kind of the thing you've been trying to hammer home this week. I know each week you usually have different messages, to your guys. Kind of what's been the thing that for you guys behind the scenes you've been really trying to emphasize?
Well, I think one thing when you get into games like this, and you guys have heard me say this before, it's easy to get caught up in the opponent. It's easy to get caught up in the fanfare, the rivalry, the stadium, which I do. I want our guys to enjoy it, but in the end, we need to focus on us, and we need to be enamored with what we do, because ultimately, and this is no disrespect to Oklahoma or the setting of the game or the state fair or the fried food or any of the stuff that's going on around us. We're going to play as good as we play, or we don't play as good as we play based off of what we do. It's not going to be because of those other things. And so our focus has been on us and what we need to do, and owning the game plan, having the right mental temperament, having the right mental intensity, having the right focus, attention to detail, to play this game at a high level for 4 quarters.
Rob, you're up.
Sark, what's the biggest challenge not knowing if Dylan Gabriel is going to go, if there are 3 other guys that haven't seen the field a lot? What are the biggest challenges as you try to prepare for that defensively?
I think first and foremost, we're preparing for Dylan. He's the veteran quarterback. He's been in this system. He operates it at a very high level. He's a tremendous player. He's got great rapport with Coach Levy, calling the plays. They've worked together before. So that's the first part. The second part is that the system's not going to change. How they operate, the speed and tempo in which they do, how they get the ball to their playmakers on the perimeter, their commitment to running the football, the physicality they play with up front. Those things are not going to change, So regardless of who's back there, they're going to run their plays, they're going to run their stuff, and we've got to defend the system more so than the quarterback.
Danny, go ahead.
Steve, defensively, what have you liked about Jalen Ford and just kind of how he's played and progressed, and I guess the work he put in over the offseason?
Yeah, I think, one thing that I've been impressed with Jalen has been kind of the step up from a maturity standpoint. He's in year 3 of college, and it feels like he's in year 3. I think he's very mature. At the more that he has played and the better that he has played throughout the season, the more confidence he's gotten. And I know the stat line shows so many tackles, and I think Jalen be the first one to tell you he can play better. And that's the beauty of it. You know, nobody on our team has reached a ceiling of how good they could be. So we're constantly trying to improve. And Jalen's no different. And I think he has improved from week to week, but I still think there's room for him to grow. But I just think it's a sense of confidence and maturity and comfort of just being an every down player for us at the middle linebacker position.
Cedric, go ahead.
Hey, Steve, you told us earlier this year that you're pretty amped up for the full week going into a game. As a coaching staff, this is the big emotional ball game. As a coaching staff, how do you guys walk that fine line between them getting too amped up, because you kind of want them at an optimal level when they walk out of that tunnel? You don't want them to leave it here in Austin.
I think there's, two things for us. One, we want to play with emotion. I think football is a game of emotion. I think that, teams need to play with emotion. We just don't want to play emotional. I think that's a fine line, because when you get emotional, that's when you start doing things out of character. You start getting post whistle penalties. You start to have some clutter and rather than clarity when you're emotional. So we want to play with emotion. We just don't want to be emotional. I'm a big movie buff, and I think about the movie Shooter. Okay. Clearly that guy had to have some emotion, and he had some things involved in him that were pushing him to do what he needed to do. But there took so much precision to make those shots, and there had to be clarity. There had to be focus. There had to be mental intensity. If he was emotional, he'd have been erratic. And so our goal is to kind of take on more of a sniper mentality, have emotion, just not get emotional.
Hey, Coach, on Ryan's question, I think he was asking you about what the difference in this rivalry in general is, like what you saw in your first year in the rivalry last year. Like
that's a great game. I love being part of this game. This is what college football is all about. And that's one of the things I've harped on about conference realignment. It's just there's so much that you can lose potentially with some of this realignment, but we're fortunate that to be part of this game. It's a great game for the state of Texas. It's a great game for both universities. It's a great game for our fans, for our players. And so you just try to embrace this opportunity and enjoy it.
One last one, Danny, go ahead.
Steve, we can't let you get out of here without asking you the quarterback question. Do you want to give us a starter update or a update on Quinn and Hudson's availability for Saturday?
I think both guys have prepared really well. Both of them had a really good week of preparation. Like I said, I think both of them are probably as healthy as they've been in about a month. I think, Quinn has had to do it from a rehab perspective off the field. Hudson's kind of played through his injury. So feel very confident with both guys going into Saturday.